It's September 10th, 2020. All is well, and we left this morning in our new Ford Expedition and trailer, and we headed to our first stop, which was Needles, California, which is on the border between California and Arizona. And we stopped at a campground called North Shore RV Park, right on the Colorado River. And as you could see in the pictures, there wasn't much water over here, at least this time when we stopped. So far all is well, and we are having a good trip. On day 2, we got up in Needles, packed up, prepared the trailer for travel, and we headed to Holbrook, Arizona. That was our next stop, to a campground there. We're traveling through Arizona on Route 66 and still having a great time and enjoying ourselves. We're in day 3. We started from Holbrook, Arizona, heading to Moriarty, New Mexico, and everything started out fine. However, we got into New Mexico on the way to Albuquerque, and we were stuck in 3 hours, 3 solid hours of traffic, mostly standstill traffic. It took us that long to go about 10 miles. We watched people run in the bushes to go to the bathroom. We were so lucky that we had our trailer, our own bathroom, our own food. It wasn't so terrible for us. But once we got through that, through Albuquerque, we got into Moriarty, and we stopped at a campground that was easy to get into, and we are enjoying ourselves despite the little setback of traffic. We are pushing the miles today. We left Moriarty, New Mexico, and we are pushing to Shamrock, Texas, which is the town pretty close to the Oklahoma border. And we are enjoying ourselves. We are riding on the old Route 66, which is Route 40. We're having a good time, no traffic, and we are heading to our next campground. We started out in Shamrock, Texas. It was a good night, nice campground, although they had a few bugs there. But we are enjoying ourselves, and our plan is to head east towards Oklahoma and Oklahoma City. We also fell into a routine. Lisa does fills the tank up with gas, and I take a credit card and we put the bacteria stuff on it and put it in the car. I'm doing most of the driving, however she is helping me about, do about 30 minutes at a time to give me a little rest. We are loving the scenery. The scenery changed as we go from state to state. We're in Oklahoma now, heading towards, like I said, Oklahoma City, and then we're going to turn northeast and go towards Missouri. We are going to stay at a place somewhere in Tulsa, Oklahoma. We stopped at a place called Estes Park Campground. It's somewhere outside of Tulsa, Oklahoma, and GPS gave us crazy directions to get there, and that was quite fun with our 30-foot trailer. But we finally got there, and Hank, who owns the house and the property, invited me into his house, and we filled out the paperwork to get a spot, gave us a nice spot in the campground. It was really nice. It was the first spot where we had cable and we were able to watch television. And Lisa and I, we went for a walk around the campground and around the town. And there were some beautiful, beautiful large houses in the area. And we really are enjoying ourselves and actually relaxing, especially after the long drive and setting up the trailer. So we are going onward. After staying in Tulsa, Oklahoma, we drove through and into Missouri, where we found a Cracker Barrel and we had lunch. And the funny part of it was we pulling, the truck and the trailer, and the lady asked us which parking space we're in, and I believe we said, just come outside, you'll see us. Anyway, we headed towards Pacific, Missouri, and that was pretty close to the Illinois border, but we stayed in a Jellystone campground. It was right next to the Six Flags amusement park in Missouri. It was a very nice campground. It caters to kids, lots of colorful stuff, statues, Yogi Bear and type things. We really did have a nice space. We were surrounded by these two beautiful, beautiful motorhomes, and we really did enjoy ourselves there. Did a little shopping, of course. And here's Lisa. She was tossing the garbage away. Nice shot, by the way. Anyway, we'll be heading towards Illinois tomorrow. After we left Jellystone Park in Pacific, Missouri, we drove through Illinois rather fast and entered the southern portion of Indiana on the way towards Indianapolis. We usually drove about 250 to 300 miles a day, especially going to New York, because our objective was to get to New York as fast as we can. But we stopped at this campground in Indianapolis, and it was really, really nice. There were lakes. The site that they gave us was really nice, up on a little hill. There were beautiful campgrounds, very friendly people. We walked around the whole campground and sat on some terraces, and there were sprinklers in the water. It was kept really, really nice. And we really did have a good time at that campground. That evening, Lisa got online, and throughout the whole trip, she kept in contact with our grandkids as much as possible. And this particular night, she got a hold of Abby and Leo, and we FaceTimed together, and it was very nice having them on the trip with us. After we leave here, Indianapolis, we're going to end up in Ohio, and we'll probably go about 250 miles.
I gave you 20 bucks towards that.
We will push on to New York. So we pushed on to Zanesville, Ohio, and then Allentown, PA, and then we got to New York. We didn't take many pictures of these campgrounds, but we really did have a great time. Pennsylvania was beautiful, and some interesting stories going through New York. So we got to the George Washington Bridge. Lots of traffic going over there, but on the way to the bridge, the GPS routed us a strange way, and we ended up in Newark, New Jersey with the trailer, going through all these crazy streets. It was directing us to go to I-95 towards the George Washington Bridge, so we took the long way around. It was sort of white-knuckle driving, but we finally got to the bridge, then we got to the Cross Bronx in traffic. Then I had to get on the Cross Island, and while I should not have gotten on it because the bridges may have been too low for the trailer, I did it anyway because that was the only way I knew how to get to Long Island. And I did it, and everything worked out okay. Lisa was really nervous about it, but we made it through, and we headed to Long Island. So we got to Long Island, everything was fine. We backed up, took several tries, but we backed up into the driveway of my parents' house. We hooked up, and we're doing okay. And by the way, Elsa and Anna joined us on the trip and kept us company. And I'm going to end part A right here and continue in the next section with our visit to New York and our trip home. So stay tuned. Well, we arrived in New York, Deer Park. We pulled the trailer up to my parents' house. We parked it on the driveway here. That was quite the undertaking, but on a couple of moves we got it on. It fit real well. We visited with my mom and dad for a while, and then Michelle and Joe came over, and we went over to Jessica's house. It was actually Yom Kippur, and they were having a little Seder, and so we had dinner there. We kept our distance. We always had masks on. We ate separately. We were very careful. We stayed in our trailer for 6 days, sleeping, using the shower and the restroom at night. During the day, we used my parents' bathroom and laundry room, which was right off the garage there. We tried to block the way so not to get our germs or add any risk to my parents' house. And that seemed to work out okay. Anytime anybody came to visit, we stayed in the garage. There was Abby and Mike. They came over, my sister and Joe, and each day we spoke with my parents. We visited with them. They came out to the garage. We sat there. It was quite cold. We brought some heaters, but it was very nice visiting with them. And for a few days we went over to Abby and Mike's house for dinner, just to visit with them for a while. We kept our distance. We stayed outside most of the time. We were being very careful. We stayed at my parents' house for about 6 days. We had decided that we were going to leave on Saturday. And my sister and Joe invited us out to their house. However, we were a little uncomfortable with going to the house and whatnot. So they came to visit us came to Deer Park, and we went to Belmont State Park, which is right near where my parents live. They redid it. It's a beautiful playground, and got a trail around the lake. And so Michelle and Joe and Lisa and I, we spent the day with them. We hiked on these trails and really did enjoy it. It was actually like a cloudy day, rather not terribly hot, and a little overcast, and we did enjoy ourselves, and it was very nice spending time with them. And we're preparing the trailer, getting ready to leave, which will be tomorrow, and we'll be heading to Pennsylvania through New Jersey to pick up Route 80, and then head to Pennsylvania for our first stop. Before we left, we really wanted to say goodbye. I had a hope to be able to hug my parents. I missed them so this past year, and I just wanted to hold them. So I used Michelle's idea, and took a painter's drop cloth, put it over me, and we hugged each other, and it was nice to touch and to hold one another. It was hard leaving, but Lisa and I were ready to go. We had a long trip home, and look forward to it. We've enjoyed the trailer, and the car's been great. Hopefully we'll see some sights on the way home, and we are on our way. We're on the road again, Throgs Neck Bridge, heading out. Our goal is to find Route 80 as easy as possible, and we actually found the signage. We entered New Jersey, no problem, and heading to Pennsylvania, and we're actually on Route 80, and a little relieved that the GPS took us in the right place. Lisa and I, at times, we stop at the rest stops and the truck stops just to rest, take it easy, unwind, get up a little bit. Pennsylvania was gorgeous. All the trees were changing. The colors were just fantastic. It was really eye-catching and beautiful. We took tons of pictures of the trees and the colors, and had a very nice time driving through it. It was just like New England was supposed to look like in the fall time, and so we are enjoying it. And earlier during the week, I called my friend Paul, who lives in Pennsylvania. I hadn't seen him in about 40 years, and I said, we're going to try and get to your house. We went through all these little hick towns, and GPS was sending us in all different kinds of directions. We really had a hard time with the trailer. The streets were small, and getting a little frustrated, and there was no communications. Our cell phone and our hotspot that we had, T-Mobile, horrible. We went through this whole area near Harrisburg, and there was absolutely no service. We couldn't even make a phone call, let alone follow GPS. Anyway, we got fairly close to where we thought his house was. I didn't want to show up. I was very uncomfortable doing that, and the roads were getting smaller and smaller, so I decided that we're going to get back to the Route 80 and go on, move on. And I did talk to him on the phone and apologize, but I just couldn't do it. Anyway, our first stop was Logantown, Pennsylvania, and really nice campground. And we're spending the night here, and tomorrow we're heading west. Pennsylvania will probably be in Ohio. And that's it here. Leaving Pennsylvania and heading into Ohio, and we find ourselves in the Allegheny Mountain Tunnel as we head west on Route 80. Our goal is to reach Sandusky, Ohio, which is the most northerly town in Ohio, near the western border of Indiana. And we are heading to a KOA campground, as you see. It's really nice, real flat, lots of amenities. However, being that it's not the summer season and COVID, those amenities are not operating at the moment. This particular campground is on borders a bay which is attached to Lake Erie, and Lake Erie runs from Sandusky, Ohio, all the way to Buffalo, New York. Anyway, the landscape is beautiful. As you can see, we have our own little patio, rocking bench, and dining table out there. Lisa and I are walking around the campground. There's lots to see. First of all, the bay is beautiful, ducks and birds and whatnot. There's the miniature golf. It was actually easy to back in and park. It was one of the first times that we had to actually detach the car from the trailer because it was not a pull-through spot. But we did a good job. It's all leveled, and now we're looking around at the campground, and it was actually quite cold, near the water. And we're both wearing sweatshirts, and I'm really enjoying the trip. Tomorrow we'll be heading towards Toledo. We're going to stop at a Camping World. We need some little repairs on the camper, if they could possibly help us. And then after that we'll be heading to Indiana, and we'll probably not make Gary tomorrow, but we may stay in a place called Fremont, Indiana. After Sandusky, Ohio, we got into Fremont, Indiana. Didn't take a lot of pictures. It was getting late in the day. We were traveling long distances. We spent a long time at Camping World, Toledo. They were very, very wonderful. They accommodated us. They know we were traveling through. They took us right away. It took about 3 hours to do some of the repairs we asked them to do. But so we were kind of tired. So instead of driving all the way to Gary, Indiana, we decided to. stay in Fremont, Indiana.
Fremont, Indiana.
'Cause 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 'cause
We were here with Aunt Blanche.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
You were.
I remember. This is so beautiful.
Oh my God! What?
And that's Gary.
Yeah, that looks like
All the factories. Yeah.
We arrived at Gary, Indiana. We were on the phone with Marcy, and she was trying to give us directions to her house. As usual, they weren't totally clear, but we ended up taking a little shortcut and looking at the Lake Michigan, which is just a few blocks away. And then she was leading us here towards her house. At one point, she led us in a area that I had to make a U-turn, but I think it was in an alley. But we finally made it.
We're at Marcy's house in Miller, Indiana, which is right a couple blocks off of Lake Michigan. And we're parked sort of on her property, or on the parkway in front of their house. And I believe they live in this house. And they're inside the trailer looking at it.
Marcy is showing us the improvements and the construction that she's made, her and Chris, in one of the houses.
Put in there, nice and warm.
Yeah, I mean, whichever you prefer, but that way you don't have less water.
Marcy and Chris took us to Lake Michigan, the beach, right near our house. And we walked along the beach for a mile or so and then back on a trail. It was very nice. A little long for me, but very, very nice. And we found some rocks and some interesting stuff. This is Octave Chanute. He was into aviation and actually assisted the Wright brothers with flight. And this building is dedicated to him, and it's now a catering hall on the shores of Lake Michigan. Richard and Sandy and Erin came down to Marcy's place and visited with us. We had dinner on the porch. We kept our distance, and everyone was wearing masks at the time. We had a really nice day, really nice visit.
Of course.
Because I believe that is where he worked.
I worked there and Dad worked there.
Oh, you worked there too?
Wouldn't know then.
Oh, you worked there too?
Yep.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I was the Admiral's personal assistant.
Wow.
What?
Really?
Never heard this.
A personal assistant to the Admiral.
And that was before Steel Rule died.
That was a couple of years back. It was.
Huh.
But in any event, it's wonderful seeing you. I love you. You stay well. And I look forward to talking to you again.
Look forward to seeing you, Aunt Blanche.
Love you, Aunt
Take care.
Blanche.
Love you.
I have
Bye.
Love
Bye.
you.
Love you. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, bye, darling.
Bye.
We had a very nice time at Marcy's. We were there for 2 days, and tomorrow we're gonna head out, head west through Illinois, and then into Missouri, and then Kansas. Upon leaving Marcy's house in Gary, Indiana, we traveled through Illinois to Rock City. We stayed in a really nice campground down there, and actually we needed some food, so we went to our first supermarket there, and it was a quick shopping, but we did it and picked up some stuff we needed for the rest of our travels. Lisa and I, we stop pretty often while we're on the road. We stop at the local rest stops. We're amongst all the big trucks. And we generally just get out of the car, relax. We're in almost to, I think, Eagleville or Bethany. I Missouri, although we're not in Missouri yet. It's about 40 miles ahead. We're in a rest stop. And we're hanging out with the big trucks. We just crossed over the border into Iowa, heading towards Des Moines, and we're actually going to Trader Joe's in Des Moines to pick up some odds and ends that we need for the rest of the trip. After Trader Joe's, we entered Missouri. We'll be in Missouri for a short time, heading towards Kansas. However, we did make a stop over that night in Eaglesville, Missouri, at a really, really nice campground. Eagleville, Missouri. Swinging on the tree. The campground was really decked out, beautiful scenery. There were Halloween decorations up already at the owner's house, and we couldn't get enough of the scenery and the farms and the colors all around us. We're really enjoying this campground. We also did something pretty bold. We did our first laundry on the road at this campground. It looked pretty clean, so I guess it was okay to do that. We did wear gloves and masks and whatever we needed to do. But the good thing is that we have some clean clothes for the rest of the trip. We entered Kansas, after staying in Eaglesville, and we're excited about this. We've never been in Kansas before, and we're going to travel the whole state lengthwise. The first city we went through was Topeka, Kansas. The bigger city than we thought, but it was really nice. We got some nice pictures. Our next stop at a campground is in Abilene, Kansas. It's actually the site of Dwight D. Eisenhower's presidential library and museum, and there was a house where he grew up. The whole place was closed because of COVID, and it was sort of late in the day also. After Abilene, Kansas, we got in the car and we're heading west, and we're thinking that Scott is from this area, and we were speaking to Scott on the phone, and he mentioned that he did have an aunt and uncle in a town, living in a town called Oakley. And we decided to go visit because we were going right through Oakley to get towards head towards Colorado, and so that's what we did. He gave us the address. GPS took us right into Oakley to their house, and we met his aunt and uncle Dan and Chris. And they welcomed us with open arms. We hung out at their house for actually longer than we intended. It was a very nice visit, talking about Scott and Harold and everybody. And then as we were going to leave, they had suggested that we go see this monument up not too far from them. So we all hop in our cars, we jump in the trailer, and they take their car. We followed them, and it was actually the Annie Oakley birthplace monument with Buffalo Bill and the statues, and we really had a good time. We're glad we stopped. We had a lot of fun. It was a very nice meeting them. They were so nice. And we took lots of pictures. Then we said our goodbyes and they left. And we hung out there at the monument. We actually went in the trailer. We had lunch and rested up for a while before heading west. And it was a great day. It was very nice. We were heading towards Colorado. Our ultimate plan was to go to Colorado Springs. That didn't work out, as it turns out, but we stopped at a town about, I think it was about 30 miles from Oakley, called Goodland, We stayed tonight at Goodland Campground, and it's pretty close to the Colorado border. I believe we asked the owner of the campground what would happen if there was a tornado in the area, and he said, well, they have a shelter. It's part of their house, and it leads down to a basement. And should there be a tornado in the area, we head for this door, which is the basement. We go downstairs and we shelter in place. Luckily, it was a beautiful day, and no worries about tornadoes. Also, we woke up from this campground and a smell of smoke. It was horrible. It was all smoky, all brown when we got outside. It was disgusting. And we knew that there were fires in the Denver area, or northwest of Denver. However, the smoke had migrated to us in Kansas. And so we were supposed to go into Colorado to Colorado Springs, but we were afraid that the smoke was really bad, so we started heading south. We entered Colorado, we went south, and we were going to connect with Route 40 again,
We're now
thinking it
on
might be better, we might be better
385,
off.
Going south to try and get away from the smoke. We were on 70 west towards Colorado Springs, and it is bad.
I like that word for it.
Oh, bad, right?
Yeah, right.
That's where the fires are. Can't see the Rockies. Supposedly the Rockies are over there.
We are heading towards New Mexico. We exited Colorado heading south, and we're on Route 25. And we stopped at a town called Raton, New Mexico, just inside the New Mexico border. And a nice campground. We were really tired. It was a long day of traveling, and we seemed to got away from the smoke from the Colorado fires, which is a good thing. When we left Raton, we're heading down New Mexico towards Santa Fe, and then towards Albuquerque. And lots of nice scenery, farmlands, animals, lots of sights made the ride pretty enjoyable. And it was also clear from the smoke, so that was nice too. Got some nice close-ups. I had my telephoto lens on my camera at this point, and we got some nice pictures of the animals, horses, cows, and whatnot. It was kind of a fun drive, and we were heading towards Route 40. We were going to pick that up in Albuquerque. On the way, we kept seeing signs for Las Vegas, and we figured out it's not the same Las Vegas that's in Nevada. So we took lots of pictures. It's a nice, pretty big town in New Mexico. And we're traveling. We see a lot of these signs, regarding COVID, be careful, limit travel, and that type of thing. We are heading to Santa Fe. We didn't stop. We stopped for gas. This is a very old cemetery alongside the highway, and got to Albuquerque, and we're picking up Route 40, which was the old Route 66, which is the road that we took out heading towards New York. We stopped at a campground called Grants. It was in the city of Grants, and it was okay, but it was just a stopover. We were kind of tired. But the next day we were heading west, and we found a site that we stopped at. Along the way, we saw signs for the Bandero volcano and ice caves, so we decided to stop and see what that was all about. And it was fairly nice. It was mountainous, so we had to hike up a long trail for about maybe a half a mile to the volcano, and then hike down to where the ice cave is. There were lots of interesting formations and trees, and this was an active volcano way back when, and most of the rock and the gravel was all volcanic ash. And you get up to the viewing point, and you're actually like halfway above and inside where the volcano was, and you could tell the way the trees are, the trees are growing straight up. It's really, really nice when you finally get there. However, Lisa was fine, but I had a little hard time going uphill. So we took several pictures and sat for a while, and then we walked down the path and took this cutoff. And it was all downhill, so it was easier for me. And we went to the ice caves portion of this site, and that was pretty interesting. You get to a viewing area, you have to go down about 70, 75 steps, whatever it is, and then as you're going down, the temperature drops because you're going into the cave, and there's always ice in there, so the temperature is always 31 degrees. And the water comes from the rains and the summer rains and whatnot, and the ice gets higher about an inch every year. And we took some nice pictures, and it was very enjoyable, and because it was a hot day, it was very relaxing, and the temperature was really nice too. However, after you're done, you have to climb up these 70 odd number steps. But I'm glad we stopped. So we finally got out of the car and saw something interesting, and we really did have a good time. We left New Mexico and we headed to Arizona. Our next major stop was Sedona. We couldn't find the campground near Sedona, so we went about 30 miles past to the city of Williams. It's a great town, historical. It's known as the gateway to the Grand Canyon. It's not quite the gateway because the Grand Canyon is 70 miles from there, but it's a really nice town, touristy town, and we stayed in a really nice campground, KOA, that was made for kids, miniature golf, go-karts, and things like that, and we stayed there for 2 nights. The next day we went to Sedona, and we actually took a road past Sedona about 16 miles to go to Bell Rock Vista. It's one of the vortex areas. We parked, we went for a little hike, and then we came back, then we drove through Sedona, took lots of photos, and it's absolutely gorgeous there. Going through Sedona was very crowded, lots of traffic, must have taken about an hour and a half to get through the town. So we decided to actually go back to Williams and enjoy Williams, even though, you know, I mean, Sedona's gorgeous, but there was nothing for us to do in the town, no social distancing, there was nothing we could do. Lisa was driving, and through the canyon here, it was pretty hairy, really steep cliffs on the other side. It normally doesn't bother me, but it's usually because I'm driving. With her driving, I'm right on the side of the cliff. A little nerve-wracking, but kind of fun at the same time. We arrived back in California after visiting Sedona, and we're staying at the same campground that we first stayed out on the way out towards New York. This is Needles, California, right on the border of Arizona and on the Colorado River. And if you remember the pictures, there was hardly any water there. Now, for some reason, I guess the floodgates opened and lots of water and recreational sports and whatnot. And we really enjoyed being at this campground. We sat our chairs in the water, watching the boats and the waves and the ducks, and we're having a great time. About these ducks, Lisa wanted to see if we could feed them, so she went online to find out what's safe for them to eat, and I believe it was cut up lettuce was the safest thing. So she went back to the trailer, got some lettuce, came back, gave it to the ducks, and they wouldn't even touch it. They looked at it and whatever, and then that was it. So that was unsuccessful, but they were very cute. They hung around us. They were not shy.
Oh, the other thing. Can you please just let me know when you're
We're leaving the campground now in Needles, and we're heading to the Palm Springs area to visit Kerry and Marty. There are a few ways that we can get to the Palm Springs area from Route 40. We chose to go west The first way was to go back a little bit to Route 95, head south to the 10, and we go through Palm Springs that way. As it turns out, we probably should have gone that way, but we chose naturally the other way, and we found that all the roads were closed. All the cut-through roads, country roads, were all closed. So we had to go all the way to Barstow and then backtrack, go east again to get to the Palm Springs area. It would have been much more helpful to get a road closed sign on the highway as opposed to getting off the highway, going towards the road and seeing the delineators blocking the road. You know, with us, we're pulling the 30-foot trail, and now I have to make a U-turn, blocking on-ramps and things like that. So, not the best situation, but as it turns out, we did have to make a few U-turns.
Talk to you later. We stopped at this truck stop so we can look at the map, see which is the best way to go, and we use the restroom and whatnot, and then we'll be on our way again. U-turn again. This road is open but only goes a certain distance. We have to go beyond that to get to the Palm Springs area.
Hi.
How you doing? I'm okay. Hello. How you doing?
Are you cold or warm or what?
It's 78. Not too bad.
That's warm.
Yeah.
I don't know what the temperature is here, but certainly it's cold on 68. And I can't seem to warm up, so don't drink a lot of hot tea.
Good. And where's your brown blanket? Use your brown blanket.
Yeah. That brown hairy one that you gave me for my birthday.
Yeah.
That is so warm. It is such a pleasure to put it on.
Well, good.
I thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, use it.
So, what you all doing today?
We are going to Palm Springs.
Oh, lovely.
Yep. And we're having to backtrack because they closed roads and they didn't give you any warning.
Oh. Okay.
Oh well. Only in California. We traveled all across the United States, didn't have this. California we have it. Else. And there's like the old Route 66. So it's called something Trail.
Thousand Trails Road.
Trail something? No.
No, it's Thousand Trails Road.
And we've gotten off 3 exits and we go to make a left and it's closed. But they don't tell you. They've got the exit signs on the highway and you think they put a road closed sign there. So you don't even bother to get off.
That I did, but I want to make sure that they continue to have hope, to have that.
So we got off at Barstow and we're on Route 243 going towards the Palm Springs area. This is a new road we haven't been on before and it was actually a nice ride but quite the distance. It was a long ride. This is Old Mother's Road. It runs east-west and we're heading east towards the Palm Springs area. We're going to be going through Landers, Joshua Tree, and 29 Palms. When we get to 29 Palms, we're going to head south and pick up the 10 freeway towards Palm Springs.
Oh, you know what? We're in Landers. This is our Landers Quake, 7 point something. We're in Palmdale.
Oh.
We're on Old Mother's Road and we're coming to this hill. This video view doesn't do this justice, but it looks like we're going straight down and going up the hill again. It was quite the ride and quite the surprise. We're now in 29 Palms, turning south towards the 10. It's quite the ride, lots of hills, long distances. I'm very glad we have the car that we do. It's made for pulling trailers, and we felt very safe in it.
Giant fifth wheel.
We arrived at our campground in Cathedral City, which is right near where Marty and Carrie live. And we're leveling the trailer and parking it. And although we had some difficulties and with tight spaces and rocks and things like that, we're all ready to go visit Carrie and Marty. And here we are in Rancho Mirage outside their house. We spent 2 days here with them. We hung out around their house. They showed us their complex. We went swimming. Really enjoyed being with them. And after our visit, we're gonna head home. And we are just about home. We're pulling into our driveway. This completes 33 days on the road. We traveled 6,500 miles. It was a beautiful trip, great weather, one day of rain, and saw my parents and my family, and then we got to see Richard and Sandy and Marcy and Chris in Chicago. We met Scott's aunt and uncle in Kansas. And it was a great trip, great memory, and I hope this video comes out real well. And looking, forward to our next trip.